Ladies and gentlemen, buckle up because what you're about to hear is nothing short of a political earthquake that's shaking the foundations of Washington. And it's all in favor of one man, President Donald J. Trump. Imagine this. The highest court in the land hands down rulings that could reshape the entire government, empowering the executive branch like never before, while Democrats are left scrambling, melting down, and plotting desperate moves to derail the momentum. If you've ever wondered what true draining of the swamp looks like in action, stick around. This story is packed with drama, victories, and the kind of insider insights that will keep you hooked until the very end. We're diving deep into Supreme Court bombshells, bold presidential firings, and a looming government shutdown that could change everything. Trust me, by the time we're done, you'll see why America is roaring back under Trump's leadership and why his opponents are in full panic mode. Welcome back to the Zone Media Network. I'm Griffey, your host, and today we're unpacking a day of triumphs that has the left absolutely speechless. Let's kick things off with the jaw-dropping decision from the United States Supreme Court that's got everyone talking. In a stunning 6-3 ruling, the court has greenlit President Trump's move to fire FTC Commissioner Rebecca Slaughter, handing the administration a massive win at the highest judicial level. This isn't just any bureaucratic shuffle. It's a direct challenge to the long-standing idea of independent agencies that operate outside the president's full control. Picture this. For years, these so-called independent bodies like the Federal Trade Commission have been shielded by precedents such as Humphrey's Executor, a 1935 case that essentially tied the president's hands when it came to removing certain officials without cause. But now, the Trump team is pushing hard to dismantle that very precedent, arguing that the executive branch needs more authority to oversee these agencies and ensure they're aligned with the will of the people who elected the president. The court, in its wisdom, has allowed the firing to proceed immediately, even as they schedule full argument for December 2025 to dive deeper into the matter. This means Slaughter is out, for now, and it opens the floodgates for Trump to clean house across a whole array of federal entities. Think about it. Agencies that regulate everything from trade to consumer protection could soon be under tighter presidential reins, allowing for swifter implementation of policies that prioritize American interests over entrenched bureaucracy. But hold on, because the Democrats aren't taking this lying down. Oh no, they're in full meltdown mode, decrying this as an assault on democratic norms and independent oversight. Before Trump's second inauguration, they pulled every trick in the book to Trump-proof the presidency, fortifying positions, embedding loyalists, and limiting executive powers wherever possible. Yet here we are, with the Supreme Court consistently ruling in Trump's favor on a staggering 80 to 90% of key cases. Why? Because these decisions aren't about favoritism. They're about fidelity to the Constitution. Trump promised to appoint conservative justices who interpret the law as written, not as activists wish it to be, and he's delivered. Gone are the days of a left-leaning court tilting toward expansive government overreach during eras like the Obama administration. Now, with a solid conservative majority, including powerhouses like Amy Coney Barrett, the court is reading the Constitution plainly, recognizing the broad powers vested in the executive branch. This ruling on the FTC is a prime example. It affirms that the president can remove officials who aren't performing or who stand in the way of his agenda, which is exactly what voters demanded when they sent Trump back to the White House. Draining the swamp isn't just a slogan anymore. It's happening in real time. In his first term, Trump ousted some bad actors, but this second go-around, he's ramping it up, targeting DI hires, far-left radicals, and anyone using government positions as fulcrums for ideological warfare. And the Supreme Court is backing him up, ensuring that fairness and constitutional principles prevail. If that first bombshell wasn't enough to rattle the establishment, brace yourself for round two. President Trump is escalating his battle to the Supreme Court over firing Federal Reserve Governor Lisa Cook. That's right, this fight is going all the way to the top, and it could fundamentally alter the makeup of the Fed's board, influencing everything from interest rates to economic policy. Just one day after the Fed slashed rates for the first time in 9 months, a move many see as too little, too late. Trump announced his intent to remove Cook, citing allegations of mortgage fraud. Cook, of course, fired back, denying the claims and insisting the president lacks the authority to oust her without ironclad cause. But let's break this down. A lower appeals court initially blocked the firing, ruling that Trump overstepped his bounds. Insanity, right? How can a subordinate court thwart the commander-in-chief on such a matter? Yet, drawing from the fresh FTC precedent, Trump's team is optimistic. If the Supreme Court sides with him, and early indicators suggest they might, it would shatter the illusion of the Federal Reserve's absolute independence. We're talking about a board that's supposed to be insulated from political pressures, with governors serving staggered 14-year terms to outlast administrations. But Trump argues that cause for removal is broad enough to include misconduct or policy misalignment, especially when it hampers his economic vision of lower rates, robust growth, and America First priorities. To get the full picture, let's turn to insights from financial experts like CBS News Money Watch correspondent Kelly O'Grady, who broke this story. She points out that this was an expected escalation after the appeals court allowed Cook to stay on during the Fed's recent meeting. If the Supreme Court takes up the case and rules for Trump, it sets a groundbreaking precedent not just for the Fed, but for all independent institutions. The law around for cause removals is notoriously vague, leaving room for interpretation that could empower future presidents, Republican or Democrat, to reshape these bodies. On the flip side, a ruling against Trump would tighten those definitions, limiting executive flexibility and potentially handcuffing leaders like him who aim to align agencies with voter mandates. For everyday Americans, this boils down to interest rates and economic stability. Removing Cook would let Trump appoint a successor more in tune with his calls for aggressive rate cuts, countering what he dubs the too late approach of Chair Jerome Powell, whom he views as a holdover from the Biden era. Powell's been criticized for dragging his feet, but with new appointees like Stephen Mine, who recently voted for a half-point cut, Trump could tilt the board toward policies that fuel growth, job creation, and inflation control. This isn't about politicizing the Fed. It's about ensuring it serves the people, not an elite cadre insulated from accountability. Democrats, predictably, are terrified. They're painting this as an authoritarian power grab, accusing conservative justices of being mere puppets for Trump's agenda. But let's set the record straight. That's pure fiction. Take Justice Amy Coney Barrett, Trump's most recent appointee. She's no rubber stamp. In interviews, she describes her meticulous process, reading briefs, listening to oral arguments, consulting law clerks, poring over precedents, and conferring with colleagues. She often changes her mind based on the facts, refusing to shoot from the hip on constitutional questions. For instance, when asked about presidential tariff powers, a hot topic potentially heading to the court, she demurs, emphasizing the need for thorough review. This is judicial integrity at its finest, not blind loyalty. Every justice, conservative or liberal, wrestles with the law's nuances. The court's strength lies in this deliberative approach, a far cry from the Democrats' past threats to pack it with additional justices during the 2020 campaign. Remember Biden's flirtation with adding 15 more seats to flip the balance? That was a chilling assault on judicial independence, one that could have turned the highest court into a partisan tool. Thankfully, Trump's re-election averted that nightmare, fortifying the court as a pillar of our republic. His wins aren't rigged. They're earned on constitutional merits, exposing how wrong the left is about the judiciary. And if all that drama isn't enough, we've got breaking news from Capitol Hill that's adding fuel to the fire. With a government shutdown looming just days away, President Trump has abruptly canceled planned talks with top Democrats, slamming their demands as unserious and ridiculous in a fiery Truth Social post. He listed wild claims, like free health care for undocumented immigrants, open borders, and transgender operations for everybody, though the actual Democratic asks are more mundane, extending Obamacare subsidies, reversing Medicaid cuts, and safeguarding approved spending from White House interference. But Trump sees through the smoke. This is about obstructing his agenda at every turn. Democrats are melting down over his Supreme Court victories, the booming economy, and his overall success, so they're resorting to shut down threats to halt progress. They demand continuation of wasteful slush funds. Think bizarre pork like puppet shows in Pakistan, emotional wellness classes for foreign groups, or other freakish expenditures that siphon American tax dollars overseas. Trump's having none of it. These are non-starters that bloat the budget and undermine priorities like border security and domestic infrastructure. This isn't the first time Democrats have played this game. It backfired spectacularly before, tanking their popularity. Yet here they are again, unable to win at the ballot box, in Congress, or before the Supreme Court, so they're weaponizing the budget process. Rogue judges egged on by the radical left keep striking down Trump's initiatives, ignoring Supreme Court warnings to lower courts. But time is on Trump's side. His string of judicial wins signals optimism for future battles. Voters wanted this. A strong leader who drains the swamp, appoints principled judges, and fights for America. As the shutdown deadline approaches, watch how this unfolds. It could expose Democratic obstructionism like never before, rallying even more support for Trump's vision. That wraps up today's explosive episode on the Zone Media Network. From Supreme Court triumphs to economic showdowns and political brinkmanship, it's clear Trump's reshaping government for the better. I'm Griffey. Thanks for tuning in. Drop your thoughts in the comments, like, subscribe, and share.